Today on the Fresh Brew Run Club, I'm doing another run review, this time the Dequindre Cut in Detroit, Michigan. Welcome back to the Fresh Brew Run Club. So today's video I'm doing another run review. This time I'm reviewing the Dequindre Cut in Detroit, Michigan. So this is one of my favorite places to run. It is a 2 mile out 2 miles and back 2 miles. So basically a 4 mile total path that used to be a railroad track. They took that railroad track, they took the tracks out, they cleaned up the sides. It's kind of like sunken into the ground, as you can see. And they put a nice path and then some art along the side. So it is a really cool place to run. So my run reviews, I've done one before. I did a review of the Detroit Riverwalk. You can check that out. I'll link that below if I remember to put it in the video. But basically, I have a 50-point review system that goes over some things that are important to me. Now, there may be things that are important to you that I don't have on my list, or I'm including things that are not important to you, but this is just what I value in a running route, in a running path. So the first thing that I look for in a place to run is parking or transportation options. A lot of options in the area. Like I mentioned with my previous video, the downtown Detroit area has a ton of parking. We're the Motor City. It is a car-centric city. There's bus routes. There's plenty of places to park. I would suggest parking at the Detroit Riverwalk parking lot. It is about a half a mile away from the start of the Dequindre Cut, but you get to enjoy a little bit of the Riverwalk and kind of go on Atwater and see some of the buildings there. So it is a nice little walk from that parking lot to the actual start of the Dequindre Cut. But that parking is free. This is a 3-point category. I'm giving that 3 points. It's extremely easy to park around the Dequindre Cut area. So the next category is bathrooms. Like I mentioned in the previous video as well, there is a building with bathrooms at that parking lot for the Detroit Riverwalk. However, there are also porta potties alongside the path on the Dequindre Cut itself. Those are open. So you know, if you really got to go, porta potties are there for you. So that's just a 1-point category. You know, something I do keep in mind. But I'll give this 1 out of 1. There are bathrooms available if you need them. So the third category is cost. I think it's very important that when you run it, it typically should be free. So this is a 3-point category. It is free to use the Dequindre Cut. That's one of the coolest things about the Riverwalk and the Dequindre Cut. You don't have to pay anything. You don't have to have any kind of special state park or Metro Park sticker to get in. You can just show up and walk or bike along this path. So 3 out of 3 points there for the cost. The next category is surface quality, and this is my most important category. I have weak ankles. I don't want to be twisting my ankles on, gravel or an uneven road or bad pavement. The surface quality is very important. So this is a 13-point category, and I'm going to give this 13 points. It is some of the nicest path you will run on. I think they recently repaved it maybe 2-3 years ago. That's at least what it seems like. It is very smooth, just great on the joints. 13 out of 13 for the surface quality category. Next up, we have shade. So I typically do a lot of my training in the summer. So shade is important, kind of help keep the sun from beating down on you. It depends on when you run. So the Dequindre Cut itself, like I said, it used to be an old rail line, which it's kind of sunken into the ground a little bit. So there's some walls on the sides, there's buildings on the sides, you go under some overpasses. So there is a okay amount of shade depending on where the sun is at. So I'm going to give this a 1 out of 2. It's a 2-point category. Again, if you probably run at noon, You might not have a ton of shade. I don't recommend running at noon anyway. So if you're running in the morning, you're gonna encounter some shade. If you're running in the evening, you'll see some shade as well. So I'm gonna give this a 1 out of 2 for the shade quality category. Next up, crowdedness. So I think in the downtown area, the Riverwalk does get a little bit crowded. However, the Dequindre Cut, I haven't found it to be super crowded. And one of the great things about the Dequindre Cut is there is a ton of space. So there's actually a separate section for walkers and runners versus where the cyclists are going. So there's a ton of room. If you need to go around someone, plenty of room to do so. There's grass on the sides too if you even have to go off the path a little bit. So even if it is crowded, I wouldn't say that it's a challenge to actually run there. So I'm going to give this 5 out of 5. I have no reason to knock off points in this category. Like I said, even if there are large crowds, there's plenty of room on this path where you don't have to really worry about getting stuck behind people or anything like that. So 5 out of 5 for crowdedness. Next up, pedestrian safety. This is a very important category for me. I am on the record on multiple social media platforms, including this YouTube channel, that our car-centric street design is very bad for runners. So I'm particularly sensitive to this category. So it's a 10-point category. I'm going to give the Dequindre Cut 10 points. It is completely isolated from cars. There may be one-way road that you have to cross, but there's like never any cars on it anyway, and there's a stop sign that the cars have to stop at no matter what. So you're not crossing any kind of like lights or busy roads or anything. There are no cars on the actual Dequindre Cut itself. It's just walkers and runners and joggers and cyclists. So you don't have to worry about cars. This is a 10 out of 10. If you're looking for a place downtown Detroit to run without having to worry about the Chevy Tahoe or a BMW or a Ford F-250, nipping at your heels, check out the Dequindre Cut. Highly recommend it. 10 out of 10 for the pedestrian safety category. Next category is mile markers. So I have a GPS watch, so it's not a huge deal for me, but if you don't want to run with a watch or your phone, no big deal. This path does have mile markers. And they go out and back, so you can definitely see where you're at. They're clearly marked. They're not faded. They're pretty accurate as far as I can tell. So this is just a 1-point category because it's not that big a deal to me, but there are mile markers along the Dequindre Cut. So 1 point for mile markers. And then finally, last but not least, visuals. This is really important for me. I think part of running is sort of mentally distracting your brain from the fact that you are in extreme pain while running. So visuals are really important for me as part of that process. So I'm going to give this an 11 out of 12. There is a lot to look at visually. So all along the Dequindre Cut, they have commissioned artists to come in and paint some murals on the walls where the trains used to run. So there's a ton of art to look at, which is really cool. Plus you're still in the city, so you have some really cool architecture. You run along some like old like brick buildings that I think are really interesting to look at. There's trees, there's animals that I've run across. There's all kinds of stuff to look at. So the visuals are fantastic. I'm going to give that an 11 out of 12. Plenty to look at, plenty to keep your mind occupied and not thinking about that cramp or how bad your feet hurt. Plenty to distract you on your run on the Dequindre Cut. So that is my review of the Dequindre Cut. All in all, it is a 48 out of 50, which so far is our highest score. I love running on the Dequindre Cut. So again, 48 out of 50, fantastic place to run. I highly recommend the Dequindre Cut. If you haven't checked it out, be sure to do so. If you have any questions about the Dequindre Cut that I can answer for you, put those in the comments below. I'm happy to offer any insight that I can about this. If you have a favorite place that you want me to run, let me know, preferably in the Metro Detroit area, but let me know and I'll try to run it and give it a review. So thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and I will see you soon.